A doctor worked in a hospital where patients were assigned colored wristbands to classify them. Green, alive; red, dead. One night, the doctor was ordered to go down to the hospital basement to get some supplies. He walked towards the elevator. When the elevator door opened, there was a patient inside, seemingly preoccupied with his own thoughts. In this hospital, patients were allowed to walk around the grounds, especially those who had been hospitalized for a long time. However, they were required to return to their rooms by 10 p.m. The doctor smiled politely at the woman and pressed the basement button. What surprised him was that she had not pressed the floor button before. He wondered if she was also going to the basement. The elevator finally stopped. When the door opened, in the dim light of the basement, a man hobbled towards the elevator. Panicked, the doctor quickly pressed the close button. The elevator doors closed before the man could get in, and the elevator began to rise. The doctor's heart pounded. Why did you do that? He just wanted to take the elevator. The woman beside him said, annoyed. Did you see his wrist? The doctor asked, still staring at the elevator doors. It has a red bracelet, which means he died last night. I know because I operated on him. The woman was silent for a few seconds, then slowly raised her wrist, smiled a ghostly smile, and said, this color, right? I need help. This is the third time I've tried to write this, or maybe the fourth. The past few days have seemed to be melting into each other. With no boundaries, my husband, Dewey, has been missing for 16 days. The police don't take it seriously, but they don't understand. Dewey would never leave his work unfinished like that. He's so passionate about building his own little empire that sometimes I wonder if he even remembers that he has a wife. So here I am in his office, keeping everything in order, waiting for him to come home. The papers on his desk move by themselves. Dewey tends to leave papers scattered everywhere whenever he has an idea. He's so absorbed in numbers that he doesn't even bother to close the window. I haven't slept in 3 days. Last night, the sound started, just a whisper, the sound of paper sliding across paper in the eerie silence. When I checked the office, there was nothing, but as soon as I turned away, something caught my eye. His chair had moved on its own, just a few centimeters, but just enough to point straight at me. I pushed it back. I always push it back. An hour later, the strange sound grew louder. At first it was muffled, like something was trying to speak through the walls. I found papers scattered on the desk, documents I had neatly arranged. Client contracts or money orders, numbers written in my handwriting, but I didn't remember writing them. Dewey had been very clear about not letting me in on his finances. He had made that very clear that night. Every morning, his chair was turned toward the door, even though I always pushed it back to its original position. The leather was starting to crack in strange patterns. There was a stain on the armrest that was getting darker and darker. No matter how hard I washed or scrubbed it, it was 2:15 a.m. More numbers, still in my handwriting, covered his desk. Transfers, passwords, account pins, every 3 hours, enough to keep the banking system from picking them up. I hadn't written them, but my hands were stained with ink. Suddenly, there was a scratching sound coming from under the floorboards under the chair. The floorboards I'd fixed, the ones I'd been sure were clean. Something dark was seeping through the wood, something that smelled like his aftershave, but mixed with something else that made it harder to smell. The police were here again. They ask about new soil in the garden, but that's not where they should be looking. They never look in the right place, and they never ask the right questions. Near midnight, Yang wearily entered a shabby hotel on the side of a deserted road. The rain continued to fall, each drop pouring down as if to erase all traces of life. The neon sign that said, "Available," flickered faintly, casting a ghostly color on the sky. The old woman at the reception desk pushed the key to room number 34 toward Yang without saying a word. The room was just as bad as Yang had expected. The wallpaper was stained. The smell of mold was strong, and the bed didn't look comfortable. Yang threw his bag on the floor, his eyes quickly catching sight of a window in the far corner of the room. It was tightly shut, with a sign stuck to the glass frame along with the words, "Do not open." Yang smirked, mumbled, and shook his head in frustration. Even though the air conditioner was running, the room was still stuffy. Unable to bear it, he walked to the window and tried to turn the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Frustrated, Duong took a screwdriver from his pocket and tried to pry it open. The wooden frame creaked, as if resisting his force. Finally, the window slid open. A cool breeze rushed in, causing Duong to breathe a sigh of relief. But that was when he noticed something unusual. Rusty, crooked nails were nailed tightly along the outer frame of the window. Strangely, they had been nailed from the outside, as if someone had tried to seal the window at all costs. Duong felt a little scared for a moment, but he brushed it off. It must be to protect against storms, he told himself. The next morning, when he received his sandwich at the front desk, Duong casually mentioned the window. "My room window has a 'Do not open' sign. What's the reason? I turned on the air conditioner but it was still stuffy. So, sorry, I had to pry it open." The woman froze, her smile fading. "You turned it on?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes." Yang frowned. "It was nailed shut from the outside. Why would it be like that?" The woman's face paled. She gripped the pen at the front desk, her voice faltering. "Those nails weren't to keep out the storm," she whispered. Yang frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then leaned closer, her voice dropping. "A few months ago, a man stayed in that room. He had a problem. One night, he opened that window and jumped out." She paused for a moment, her eyes flashing with fear. After that, the guests in that room started to hear whispering. Some even said they felt like someone was trying to push them towards the window. "We didn't have enough money to replace it, so we just nailed it shut. Not to stop the window from opening, but to stop him from calling anyone else." Yang's blood ran cold. "Are you kidding me?" The woman didn't answer. She just closed her eyes and shook her head slightly. Yang walked quickly towards the hallway, intending to pack up and leave the room. As he passed the window, something in the reflection of the glass made him stop. In the glass, a man stood right behind him. His face was pale, his jaw was slack, his eyes were deep and bloodshot. Two crooked, sinewy hands were tightly gripping his shoulders. Yang turned around. The lights suddenly flickered and then went out.